go ahead and get started now. We're 2 minutes past the hour. Thank you everyone for joining the Provar Summer 24 Release 1 webinar. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to us today. We'll go ahead and jump into introductions and then we'll talk through our agenda. First and foremost, your master of ceremonies, I'm Michael Daly. I'm the Technical Product Marketing Director here at Provar. I'm joined today by our VP of Product and Technology over Salesforce Applications, Samuel Arroyo, and Robin Gupta, who is the VP of Product and Technology for Test Automation. So we have a lot of exciting things that we're going to be talking about today. As always, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave those in the Q&A inside of the Zoom Q&A function, and we'll be sure to get to the Q&A at the end of our webinar today. I'll go over the agenda. So first and foremost, we'll go over what's changed in Salesforce Summer 24, the things to be aware of if you're doing any kind of testing or development on Salesforce. These are some things that you'll definitely want to be on the top of your radar. And we'll talk through some of the features and enhancements in automation, some exciting stuff in there. And last but not least, we'll have Samuel talk through some of the Provar Manager changes coming in 3.4 with a demo, I believe, in there. So definitely stay tuned for that. And then at the very end, we'll have our Q&A. So please be sure to leave questions that you have in there, and we'll get to those at the end. Without further ado, I'll hand it over to my colleague, Robin, who's going to be talking about the Salesforce Summer 24 changes.
Hi, thank you so much, Michael, and thanks to everybody who's joined us today or watching the recording later. So all of us know Salesforce brings us the goodies of releases multiple times a year. And with these goodies come the bane of test automation breakages across the globe. But interestingly, not for us. So let's quickly see how Provar helps you create bulletproof test cases and maintain that stability over the Salesforce releases with some key highlights. First and foremost is my favorite. Lookup is being replaced with advanced search screen. So all of us have worked with lookups. That one small box has now become an advanced search screen. Interestingly, while this change breaks many automation test cases, they don't break Provar's automated test cases because we support it out of the box for Salesforce release. We'll quickly look at it in the next slide in a few minutes. We have the home page is updated across multiple objects. DOM structure has been changed for a plethora of items, including pick lists, Einstein search box, created by, modified by fields, and visual force pages. There is LWC, Lightning Web Component rendering for record owner on the read convert box. Utility bar close window and choose price book pop-up screen has been updated as well. That being said, let's go on to the next slide and look at the advanced search lookup. So now, interestingly, with summer settling in, now we have the advanced search, which is taking place on the lookup. And interestingly, all those three action items which you have to do for a lookup are already covered by Provar. So as we see, advanced search has been replacing lookups across organizations. Provar will natively support it. And when you right-click add to test case, it will work just natively. And also, this will ensure that all the test cases that you have automated will work flawlessly and smoothly. So you don't have to bother about any changes because we've done the changes on our side. So that's the key area, and the value proposition it brings in is the time saving and resilience of your test cases. So that's the first one. If we go to the next one, please. We have multiple changes on Provar Automation in this release. If we go to the next slide, you can quickly take a quick look at some of them. So first and foremost, as we discussed, support for Salesforce Summer 24 release, Summer 24 compatibility, advanced search lookup, and Lightning article editor are supported. Hearing to our customers, we have also focused heavily on performance improvements, primarily on the metadata performance. So this is phase 2. For folks who are close to us would remember, we also did phase 1, and we'll look at some stats and numbers shortly. We've also started adding handling for API response codes for negative error codes like 402 and all. So this would add resilience, scalability, and stability to your API test cases. Also proves that you don't only need Provar for your UI tests, you can also beautifully use it for your API test cases. Also, based on customer feedback, we have incorporated test cycles for test plans in automation. Basically, you can use the same test plan and run or rerun test cycles on top of it. We have also updated the graphical user interface for NitroX, and this will make the process of building components or updating components very easy from this release onwards. So let's quickly look at the performance improvements in the next one. So this is phase 2. We did the phase 1, and our customers just love the improvements. With phase 2, we specifically focused on metadata as the key area. Metadata is where Provar really shines, and we ensured that with phase 2 performance improvements across the board, we see maximum improvements in numbers such as 58% or above 50% for most of the instances, such as reloading the metadata, or when you are first mapping that test case, or when you are going for the org browser. So this will be applicable for all of your orgs. Some orgs might observe more than 50% gains, and some orgs might observe a little lesser based on the complexity of metadata of that org and the setup. But in summary, we are working very closely on the performance improvements, and as we can see, we are having tangible results to show via data and via improvements. That's on performance. If we go on to the next one, we can also quickly look at the updates to NitroX UI. So as we all know, NitroX is the proprietary algorithm which Provar has developed for locators or selecting web elements on the UI. And with this update, we have made it very simple to do a couple of things, such as overriding standard components, creating new packages, and also updating attributes. So for example, if you want to write the locator by hand, or if you want to add an attribute, @type equal to text or input or date, you can even do that and update the qualifier. This change brings two positive things to us. One, makes NitroX UI a whole lot simpler. And two, gives much more control to the user so as to update the locators as per their taste and finesse. So those are some of the positive changes, many more in the release notes. Thank you, and back to Michael.
Thank you so much, Robin. Super excited for some of those. Exciting to see some of the new GUI for NitroX as well. I know that we'll have a lot of people that are excited to get their hands on that. So we're moving on now. Samuel, for Provar Manager updates.
Great. Hello, everyone. Let's move on to the next slide, where we can see all the different features and improvements that we've introduced into the current version of Provar Manager 3.4. Most of them come from feedback from our customers from internal use. And then we have some interesting surprises as well. So going module by module, let's start with release management, where we've improved the process of completing sprints. We've also improved the AI test case generation feature. Now we support custom fields. So for example, if you have a user story and we provided description field, but you have, let's say, an acceptance criteria field or something else that could be even mapped to Jira, you can also use those fields to generate test cases with AI. And where previously we only supported generating test cases in a BDD format, now we support a plain format, basically no framework whatsoever, which gives you more interesting test cases, you could say, with more test steps to it. So if you have an open AI key and you have Manager, I recommend that you try that out. Then on the test management module, we are introducing an exploratory testing application. I will dive into that a bit later on, as well as persona-based testing. So we're introducing the concept of personas, and I'll talk about that later, how you can leverage that. We are also including new estimated and average test case execution metrics. So when you go to a test case, you now can define an estimated time that a tester would take to run through a manual test case, but also we're calculating the average test case execution, maybe if it's manual or automated test executions, so that you can use that on your reports. We've improved the UI for test cycles, made it a bit more flashy and interesting. And then we've introduced a few more improvements as well. On the test operations module for the connection to Provar Grid, now we've added a little button to be able to validate the connection to Provar Grid, just to make sure that your credentials are right. And also we've added support for using environment variables. So you can define your environment variables, which will be available as you execute your test project. And then you can use those variables within your test cases, for example. Something as well, we've added some public Apex actions for flows. So if you're interested in integrating any activity within Manager into your DevOps platform, for example, with Copado, now you have it is a much easier job. Also, if you have certain security constraints where you don't want your Provar Manager users to have view all, modify all permissions for the Provar Manager objects, now we've provided some alternatives that don't have those permissions. Cool. So let's move on to the next one. I want to just dive a bit into persona-based testing. So hopefully all of you know what a persona is, but if you don't, essentially a persona is a fictional person or the prototype of a person, some sort of profile that you make of a person that works in your company or that is one of the users for the application that you're testing. For example, here we have Alex Chen. He is a sales rep within the company. He will be one of the users for the applications that we are making and we're testing. And from my point of view, I want to understand more about our prototypical sales rep. So a bit about the demographics, age, gender, where do they live, education and work status. But I also want to dive into goals and motivations. So what motivates this person? What are their pain points and frustrations, behavior patterns, and technical expertise. The purpose of thinking through all of these details for a particular user is that you get to know better your users. It's easier to empathize with them. And when you're testing or when you're building something, you have your users in mind. So you're not building as if you yourself would be the user, the end user, but actually thinking about the end user as you build and as you test. So let's move on to the next slide. As I said, benefits are improved understanding of the user needs, increased empathy, more effective testing, I believe, and better prioritization of features. So now with Manager, you can create personas. So you can develop detailed profiles of these fictional users, including their demographics, goals and motivations, pain points, and frustrations, behavior patterns, and technical expertise. And then you can use those personas and link them to user stories if you're using the release management module, or you can link those personas to test cases. Cool. Let's move on to the next one. Exploratory testing. So this is something that we haven't provided any sort of facility for in the past. If you are not familiar with the term exploratory testing, essentially is a manual and ad hoc way of testing, but it also introduces some structure. So it's not like you just go and try to click everywhere and try to break a system, but actually there's a bit of planning and thinking through behind. It's usually performed by skilled testers. So it has to be people who have a very high skill of critical thinking. They're intuitive in the way that they know more or less where to go through as they explore, for example. And the main purpose is not to create a test case. So the main outcome of the session is really not to create a test case or to automate it, and we have tools for that. The main purpose is to really just go and explore. So this will be helpful for testers who are new to a specific application, specific system, or part of a system. They just want to go and explore, understand how it works, what's the look and feel, where everything sits, how to navigate, and really just learn. So in the same way that I just study for a subject, or you're in the classroom, whatever, you take notes to learn the same way you do here. So you take notes that will serve you in the future, so you don't get lost, for example. So take a note saying, when I looked into this entity, it was here, here, and there. But as you go and explore, it's very possible that you will find some usability issues and some defects. So you might as well log those as you go. You will also be able to identify potential risks, things that could go wrong, and maybe they even went wrong, but you're not sure if the developers or anyone in the team has considered those risks in the future. So as you explore, you are able to identify those things. And it will definitely help you catch bugs that automated testing would have missed. So when you have more defined test cases and automated test cases, you create a test case because you have a clear idea of what to test. But exploratory testing, because it's not scripted and planned in that way, then you may find some edge cases that were not covered for. So it also helps you to find those bugs and then eventually move those into some sort of test case that will cover for those scenarios. So now with Manager, you can document your exploratory testing sessions using text notes, voice notes. You can take screenshots, and you can also attach files. And you can also raise defects, identify risks as you explore. And once you're done with your session, you can view the historical exploratory sessions that you created in the past. So now I just wanted to demo this because sometimes you don't have a clear image of what I'm talking about. So it's better maybe to just show it. So I'm going to go and share my screen. Cool. So hopefully you can see my screen. I'm looking at the test management module. Here on the left-hand side is my test project. And I created a test case of type exploratory testing. The three main questions that I need to answer as a tester: how long will my session take? So I'm giving myself 30 minutes. Maybe it will take less, but I will allocate 30 minutes to do a session. I'm going to define a goals. So this test case, the purpose of this test case is to explore the release management module in Provar Manager. So a bit of inception here. My goal is to familiarize myself with this module, to identify usability issues or bugs or inconsistencies, and to assess the functionality and features of this module. I've defined some objectives, the scope. So I've really defined where I'm going to go and where I'm not going to go. And I'm going to define my approach. I will going to log as much information as I deem necessary. I will explore the features, and I'm going to record things. I'm going to record bugs, especially. Deliverables, I'll have my session at the end of the day. So now I'm ready. I know what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go to the Sessions tab, and I'm going to start an exploratory session. Here we have a pop-up screen. And if you're familiar with Test Builder, it's a similar approach. It's the least intrusive way that we can do it. The cool thing is that I can use this to not only test web apps, so applications on my browser. I can use it to test desktop apps or any app that I can run on my system. So it's not only bound to the browser and web apps. Here on my recording app, I can see again my goals, test charter, and then I have to define where I'm going to store this session. So I'm going to store in my test project a particular test plan, and I'm going to use a particular system for my session. So I'm ready to start my session. And I already have the clock ticking here, the clock ticking. So I have 30 minutes and counting to go through this session. I can stop at any point in time and discard what I did in case it wasn't successful. I didn't manage to learn or to find anything interesting. I can save at any point in time. I can also click the information icon to remind myself of what was it that I was supposed to do in case I'm thinking, is it within the scope or am I going outside of it? And then you have a timeline of steps and then different steps that you can add to it. Now, this is really up to you. How much detail do you want to store in here? But for example, let's say the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open the release management module and create a test project. Okay, so let's go and do that. So I'm going to click the new button. Okay, I'm just going to create my test project. Oh, actually, wait a moment. Why is that project URL and why is it empty? Okay, so I'm going to just have an observation there. On a projects list view, the project URL is empty. And I'm going to take a screenshot. I have my screenshot there. Cool. And then I may just say, okay, let's move on. Let's create a test project. And I'll come here and just start clicking around, see where everything sits. Okay. Okay, I see that we have different issue types in my project that were created automatically. So just going to have an audio recording here with my own thoughts. Okay, yeah, so I see that the project has 4 different issue types, and I wonder where those configured. Can I choose what issue types get generated or not? I'm going to stop the recording now. I'm going to highlight it. I'm going to pin it, because when I come to my team with my session to tell the story of what I found and how I found this application to be, these are the points that I want to talk about. More importantly, some of them are really for my benefit, just to log what I was doing. But for example, I want to make sure that I mention this to my team and this recording as well. And if they ever want to review this, then they can come here and look at the session as I did. And then maybe, for example, as I try to create a new issue, I see that those issue types are here, but I cannot select any of them. So I'm actually going to raise a defect. I think that's bad enough. So issue type is empty on new issue. And I have my description. I say, okay, this is a new bug. Rating medium, impact moderate. I'm going to save that. And then eventually I may keep it there. I may push it to Jira if I have that connection in place. So I'm going to save my session. I'm going to finish that. And then I'm going to go back to my test case. Which I have here. So I can go back and see everything that I recorded with the screenshots and the audio. I can look at the defects. And here's my session. Maybe the session, there was nothing in it, so I may just delete it. But sometimes it's useful. You can give your developers and the rest of your team access to it, and they can see what you did. It can also be used for user research, like if you want to understand how your users would utilize the application, maybe during user acceptance testing, then maybe they're not knowledgeable enough to use your test automation tool to record, but this way they can tell you what they did, what they found, and then this is really just a record that your team can use to review what works, what doesn't, and what could be improved. So hopefully, if you're a tester, you find this useful. We know that, for example, it will be very interesting to be able to record your screen, but because we're storing all the information in Salesforce, then that will have really taken a lot of your storage. So maybe in the future we can do that. And yeah, remember, this is not to generate a test case off the back of it. Some of that information will help you come up with a proper test case in the future, but this is really a learning tool and to help you explore the system that you need to test. So that's all about exploratory testing. Have a go at it, and thank you very much.
Thanks for that overview, Samuel. Yeah, that was really cool to look at. And I think coming from a QA background, I can see so many different applications of the persona-based and exploratory testing, namely where you get the developer coming back and saying, oh, well, it works on my machine. So with this, right, you can't say that anymore. They've told you which environment it is, what they're doing. Here's all the steps to reproduce that defect. You get screenshots, and it's all kind of nicely packaged together there. So definitely like that. All right, we'll be moving on. We have one last topic before we get into the Q&A. We do have some questions that have already come in. I do encourage you all to drop your questions into the Q&A, and we'll get to those here in just a moment. But first and foremost, let's get to our very last item of business here on University of Provar. We do have a new University of Provar course that's available. For those of you that are unfamiliar with University of Provar, or maybe you are and just don't take full advantage of it, University of Provar is free for everyone. You can go to provar.me and register for an account there. Tons of great resources available. It's basically our version of Trailhead, right? But it's all things focused on QA, quality, testing, and automation, DevOps, integrations, all kinds of great courses you can learn on there. And you can also get some certifications to throw on your profile. So that's never a bad thing. So definitely encourage you all to take a look at it if you haven't already. That being said, the latest course is Test Automation Strategy. So this will be a very cool course to kind of dive into. Automation strategies in general, there's a lot that can be covered there. So definitely would encourage you all to go and take a look at that one and just the University of Provar as a whole. That being said, we are now at the end of our agenda. So we will open it up formally to any questions that anyone has at this time. And I do see that there's already a number of questions that have come in. So I'll start kind of going through those here. We had a question around the test cycle enhancement. So this one would be for Robin. And there was a question around the, can we get a demonstration of the test cycle enhancement? And maybe we won't do it now, no pressure, but as a follow-up, right?
Yeah, 100%. I'm very happy to see that folks are curious about the demo and test cycle enhancement. It's also one of my favorites. So definitely note it. And not only we will do a demo, we might as well convert it into a webinar and have the recording available for future viewing. So note it, and we will take care of it.
Yeah. Thank you, Robin. This is a great question. As a customer, what actions do I need to take with Provar Summer 24 release? So maybe for you, Robin.
Yeah, 100%. First and foremost, simply go to the Success portal and get the latest Provar release. It should be up there with release notes. And with the latest Provar release, we already incorporate all the changes which are required for the Salesforce Summer 24 release. So as a customer, generally not much is required. However, if there are custom page object implementations, it would help to look at the release notes and understand if due to the DOM structure changes, some of the locators, some of the page objects need to change. So only that bit, but apart from that, most of the things should be taken care of from Provar's perspective itself.
Thank you, Robin. We had another question come in here. As I can see, Provar Manager is a separate environment. As a user who has a Provar license, can we use this platform? I could perhaps answer that one. So there's Automation, which is our desktop or our studio application. And then Provar Manager is our Salesforce native application. So the two are separate applications. You do need a Provar Manager license in order to use it, but we do offer free trials. So you can go to the App Exchange and take a look at it there and get your hands on an example of it. Question here for maybe for Samuel on, is support for exploratory testing available as a standalone feature? I think it can be very useful more for test analysts than for automation engineers.
So it's part of Provar Manager. It doesn't cost any extra. So if you buy Provar Manager for your team, for your business analyst, or for your test analyst, they can use it. You don't need to even adopt everything that comes with the application. You could just say, I just wanted to record these things. So you just create a test project to store things, define your environments, and just go and create your exploratory testing sessions. You can definitely do that. Yeah.
Thank you, Samuel. We had another couple that I think are connected here in regards to exploratory testing. Again, here it's commenting on does it cover desktop-based apps? I think is the question around, it's limited to web or browser-based apps, or is it limited to those, or can we use it for desktop apps as well?
Yeah, you can use it for anything that happens on your desktop because it's not automating anything, and you can take screenshots and maybe in the future recording. So it can be used for desktop apps as well.
Awesome. Perhaps this is one for Robin here. I like this question. Are there any plans to add something like Copilot to Provar Automation?
Yeah, I love this question. Interestingly, I think people can read our minds. We are not only thinking about a co-pilot, we are thinking about a co-tester as part of Provar Automation. And pretty soon, I'm confident that as part of the labs initiative, we would be trying out some of these experiments and seeing how we can streamline the test automation experience with co-testers and co-pilots. So just stay tuned, and hopefully we'll have something positive pretty soon.
Thanks for that little teaser there, Robin. Any other additional questions we had from anyone coming in? I guess as a last note, Robin, how can people get their hands on the latest release?
It will be pretty soon available on the success portal along with the release notes. So as soon as it is made available, we'll also be sending out release communications to everybody so that you can get it hot and fresh from the success portal.
Okay, thank you for that. Well, we are far ahead of time, gentlemen. We did such a great job breezing through this. Any other last questions before we close it out? Okay. Well, thank you all so much for staying with us and asking some great engaging questions there. Love it from the audience. Again, thank you just for attending and taking your time to listen to us today. We will be sharing with you all in the chat around how you can follow up if you'd like to book time with any of our member of our sales team or anyone from the Provar side to get your hands on either Provar Manager or Automation, or just take a look at some things in Provar and talk with us. There's a link that's being shared now in the chat to do that. Okay. Well, that being said, I'd like to thank you all so much for joining. Have a great rest of your day.